Hello. So this story begins in Toronto in 2003. And this was a big year for the city. We had the blackout in the summer, SARS, David Miller was elected mayor. But the news story that I remember the most is the kidnapping of a girl named Cecilia. Now, Cecilia was taken from her home in the middle of the night, and she was murdered. And I was the same age as Cecilia at the time. I was 8 years old. So this story really terrified me. I didn't really understand how I was any different from this girl. I didn't understand why I can be taken from my parents' home next. So bedtime became a really terrifying time for me. And like any resourceful 8-year-old, I looked at what material I had at my disposal, and I devised a plan. So every night, when I would get to bed, I would undo all the buttons of my duvet cover, get inside my duvet cover, and button it around my body so my head and neck were the only parts sticking out. And obviously, this was going to deter anyone from kidnapping me, or it would at least give me enough time to confuse the kidnapper and warn my parents of the imminent threat in their home. And I slept like this probably until I was 15. And it became more habit than fear after a while. The fear did dissipate over time. And I began to take more risks with my life, one of which was moving to Tanzania when I was 18. And I moved to Tanzania by myself for 4 months. And I learned some Swahili while I was there. And the Swahili word for white person is mzungu. And loosely translated, it means stupid white traveler. And I was not a mzungu. I was riding motorcycles every day. I had drank goat's blood out of its carcass at a Maasai party. And I was friends with locals. So I really felt like very comfortable in the country. And so when I decided to spend one of the weeks in Tanzania climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, I felt very comfortable with this decision and did not train for this hike. And I was feeling good about it. Like the first day I was feeling really good with my guide. He was a really nice guy. Until I got to my campsite that night. And I realized that I had never been camping by myself before. And suddenly all these fears from my childhood started coming back to me, and I was terrified to go to bed that night. And this felt much more logical. I mean, I was on a mountain by myself surrounded by strangers. This was like prime kidnapping territory. So once again, I looked at what I had, what could I do, and I began a routine where I would undo the laces of my hiking boots every night and tie them to the zippers of my tent into knots so you couldn't unzip my tent from the outside. And this made me feel a lot more comfortable when I went to bed. But the days were good. I felt really happy during the days. I was really enjoying hiking. And my guide, like I said, was really down to earth until a summit day. So we're having dinner the day before summiting, and he looks at me really seriously, and he says, tomorrow if you have to vomit. You could die. We're going really high up in altitude. You need to keep me posted on how you're feeling, especially if you get a headache or anything. Like, okay. And so how summiting works on Mount Kilimanjaro is you get woken up in the middle of the night around 11 p.m., and your campsite's at 14,000 feet, and you hike up to the summit at around 19,000 feet, and you get there for sunrise. So you do this all in the middle of the night, and the reason you do this is because it's too demoralizing to do it during the day, because you can see the summit the entire time, and it feels much closer, or it seems much closer than it really is. So I get woken up at 11. Begrudgingly, I get out of my sleeping bag, undo my shoelaces for my zippers, and I get out of my tent. And it's really beautiful outside. There's so many stars in the sky. I've never seen anything like this before, and my guide lends me his walking pole for the evening. So I'm feeling really optimistic about this. I'm feeling really good about this hike. And then eventually the adrenaline starts to subside, and I'm just really tired. And that walking pole just becomes a rest for my head, and I start falling asleep for 10 seconds at a time on the walking pole, which is very frustrating to my guide and anyone standing behind me. And then suddenly I start smelling this really rotten egg smell, and it's really overwhelming. And for those of you who don't know what that smell is, it's the smell of sulfur. And then suddenly I start seeing all these people vomiting around me. And I mean, a lot of people are vomiting. Like every step you take, there's like vomit everywhere all over this mountain. And I am feeling really nauseous too. And I mean, like I'm not a Mizungu, like I can't vomit. I need to keep it in, I'm strong. But I'm not doing well. My mental state is kind of flip-flopping between like, oh, I'm really tired, I want to throw up. And this is not a good place to be in when trying to summit a mountain in the middle of the night. So I think to myself that I obviously need to change how I'm feeling. And I think back to the past month, and I start thinking about if I know any songs I could sing. And so in a mix of broken Swahili and English, I talk to any Tanzanian guides I see. And I'm like, do you know these songs? And the only one I can think of in my state of delirium is a children's song. And the chorus goes, quack, 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 like a duck. And I keep quacking at them. And then finally one of them knows the song I'm talking about. And they start singing with me, and I coerce 5 or 6 others to join me. And we start singing for a few hours, and I'm feeling so much better. And we sing, and I finally make it to the top of the mountain. And I look around me, and people are with their friends and family, and I'm standing there by myself. But I feel so proud of myself that I accomplished this goal. And I become addicted to this feeling and continue traveling alone by myself. I'll get a piercing every now and then, join improv, do something like this. And so my fear of being lost stuck with me, but what I found instead is a love for doing things that scared me. Thank you.